Welcome to What Are You Sporting About podcast, a podcast about business, employment, sports, and entertainment to help educate, support, and guide you to your next level. Here's your host, attorney Savania DeBarros.
Hello, everybody. I am back with another episode of What Are You Sporting About? I am your host, Savania DeBarros, the protector of athletes. And you guys know that I also own the firm, the SL DeBarros Law Firm, where we represent 6- and 7-figure business owners. Today, we have an amazing guest, Whitney Holtzman. And before I bring her in to talk about all the good things that she's a part of, I do want to remind you that we have a new book that is launching soon, Athletes Making Moves. So make sure that you go to prosportlawyer.com to get all the tea on that, or you can visit athletesmakingmoves.com and check everything out, sign up for the book launch, secure your seat for that so that you can definitely make sure you get all of the tips and the tricks and everything that's coming down the pipeline for this next phase. So without further ado, Whitney Holtzman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am honored to be with such a mogul. You are such an inspiration for, all that you accomplish on a daily basis and being a mom too. And I cannot wait to read your book.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you got to get the first book too. What Are You Sporting About? That inspired this podcast.
I need a whole library in my apartment just for you.
Oh my God. Thank you. I'm going to take that. Thank you. Guys, listen, Whitney is the CEO of Social Victories, a marketing and branding firm for leaders in the sports world. And she's also the author of the best-selling book, You Are the First You. So Brittany, yes. And I love the cover. Why did I just call you Brittany? Whitney. I love the cover. I absolutely love the cover. So I want you to tell us about that.
Yeah. So first of all, I was not someone who ever thought I would write a book. I was approached about doing it. And then once I signed the contract, I was like, I guess I have to write a book now. And it turns out I absolutely loved the book writing process. And what was great about the publisher I worked with, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that was like, I must have glitter on the front cover. And they were like, great idea. We love it. Like they just embraced who I was. And I think that, it fit well with the premise of the book. I mean, I was adamant also about the title. I wanted it to be You Are the First You because I basically in the book tell the story of my own career journey. And then at the end of each chapter, I summarize all the lessons from that chapter that I think you need to know in life and in business, but that no one teaches you in school. So for me growing up, I always wanted to be the sideline reporter on Monday Night Football. And I remember my parents saying, do you think you could pick a job with more than one opening? And I'm like, sure, I'll also do Sunday Night Football, which has doubled my options. And, kind of started out, my mom used to have meetings. Oh, by the way, to relate to your world, everyone in my family is a lawyer but me. So both my parents and my brother. So I don't know if I'm the black sheep or the one who got away. But my mom would have meetings on Monday nights. She'd come home and say, to my dad, you have one job, one night a week, make sure the kids are in bed while I'm at my meeting. And she'd come home every week and he'd have me under one arm, my brother under the other arm, and we'd be watching Monday Night Football. So no doubt that's where my love of sports began. I believe he refers to it as quality parenting or something he's very proud that that's what he instilled in us. But, long story short, someone asked me recently, have you always been entrepreneurial? I'm like, well, they only call it that when it works. When you're going left and everyone else is going right, it's really hard to have that continued faith in yourself until you end up succeeding. But I think for me, I always had that tunnel vision to know what I was meant for and what my purpose was in the world. And I wrote the book because not everyone has a support system or has that inner confidence, or sometimes you just need reassurance no matter how confident you are when you're the only one believing in yourself. And I want this book to encourage other people to carve out their own path and find their place and their purpose in the world, because that's where ultimate happiness lies. And long story short, now I have my own company, as you mentioned, called Social Victories, and I help pro athletes build their brands, but it's also more about helping them find their purpose. All of my NFL clients have second jobs off the field.
Helping them to find their you.
Exactly. And that's the thing is everyone, their whole lives has called them an athlete. So you can't define yourself by something that's temporary. So I help them figure out first and foremost, who are you that sets you apart from everyone else and makes you unique, but that's not going to change. And that's sort of the foundation for how we build everything else. And I tell them, look at pro sports, instead of looking at it as your purpose, look at it as your platform to your purpose.
Come on now. Come on, somebody. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love this. I really, really do. And it's so funny that you grew up around all lawyers, because I'm the first lawyer in my family.
I think we were struck by lightning and changed places. You're in Chicago, that's where my mom's from. I'm in Florida, you're from here. Like, I think we just like crossed paths at some point in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was so funny listening to that, because I'm like, whoa, like you grew up around all lawyers. I grew up around none. And you're right too, though. So even just take that track, you know, for instance, being the first one to do something, it's always hard. It's different. It's hard to find other people who may believe in what it is that you want to do, because they have no idea what that's all about. You know, they don't know how to support you in that. But even the person themselves may be struggling with certain issues where they need to build that confidence to be able to step into a particular phase so they can operate to the, you know, at an optimal level, right? And so for so long, even with your athlete client, so long people have been defining athletes as only athletes, not really giving them the roles or the titles of, hey, you can be this, you can be that. No, it's like, hey, let's talk to this athlete, or you should be doing X, Y, and Z because you are an athlete. But that's only a one-dimensional characteristic of who you are. So I love your statement on the book and what drove you to writing that book, and all of the passion that even exudes from you, and what you hope to achieve with it is amazing. So I need to read yours too.
Yeah, well, we'll have like a book club with each other's books.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've only written one. You've got a whole library.
I actually kind of do, though. I'm not gonna lie. Oh my gosh.
I will say, you know, I joked, all my friends were having babies and I had a book, because it takes the same amount of time. So for you to write multiple with everything else you have going on, your law practice, being a mom, doing this, like, I do not know how you found the time to write more than one book, and even one to start out with.
You sound like my mom and almost everybody I know. It's definitely a balancing act. So let's talk about that for a second.
Let's do it.
Because with entrepreneurism, you have to balance so many different things, and you are not one-dimensional. So how do you balance now with being a best-selling author, with Social Victories, the CEO of Social Victories, and supporting your athlete clients?
Well, I think it's twofold. First, I sort of, you know, people always are looking, especially women, always talking about the phrase work-life balance. And I don't think that mantra exists. I'm a believer in prioritizing what's most pressing in your life. Because for me, if, you know, I live in Tampa and I moved here, I want to be near family. So if there's something happy or some emergency with my family, that is going to take priority over everything else. And I only want to work with clients who have the same values and would support me in those decisions. I don't want someone where if I'm, you know, at dinner with my family, it's like, okay, leave right now and call me. You know, everyone I work with is like, oh, sorry to bother you. Call me when you're done. So I think that's very important. And I also think you can't get away from your why. So I knew after I, you know, worked at a number of corporate jobs, I worked at ESPN, Major League Baseball, at VaynerMedia for entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk, the owner of the Miami Dolphins and his racial equality nonprofit. And I kind of paid attention each step of the way to what my heart needed the most at every stage, because sometimes I wanted something different from when, you know, 2 years prior I had started the job. And I think constantly listening to yourself is important, and recalibrating your priorities change as life goes on. And so I got to the point where I said, look, what's most important to me is being able to make my own schedule, and for me to execute my ideas and be able to be creative. I think I worked in a lot of places where they wanted me to do what the 10,000 people before me had done. Although I was hired for my ideas and creativity, they didn't actually want me to execute them. So I wanted to be able to run free with all of the ideas I had, or even, you know, if I wanted to, I was having a great conversation and I wanted to have an hour and a half meeting with someone. It wasn't like, okay, an hour, lunch is up, back to the office. You know, I could kind of live life on my own terms. And then I wanted to live here in Tampa and be near my family and be in warm weather and see the sun shining, that really affected my well-being. And I don't think people talk enough about the intangibles of where they live. They're often, I moved to this city to work, but what makes your heart happy? And so I think the prioritizing what's most pressing and kind of listening to your heart are sort of the ways for me that I balance everything, because when you work from within, you're not confused about what's most important.
When you work from within, you're not confused about what's most important. Thank you for that soundbite. Wow, it's true. So what I love most about that piece of what you said is you have to go in to recalibrate what's important to you, your why, and constantly evaluate your why, right? I think a lot of people fall short on that because they lose sight of the why by trying to chase something that either someone else says they should chase or what they feel like they should chase based on society standards, but it's not in alignment with the why. Like if you ask someone today, why are you doing that? They probably can't even give you an answer. So.
Right. And I think at the end of each day, a lot of people come home drained and exhausted, and they would say their days are net negative. And for me, I made a commitment that I have one life. I want to live it to the fullest. I'm a believer in 0% toxicity. You have to punt any addition by subtraction. Get rid of anything that detracts from your emotional bank account. So I said, okay, I'm only going to fill my days in this business with good things and good people. And I didn't even know that this level of happiness was possible. And I think so many people just are going through the motions. And, dating and jobs are very similar. And there's a lot of comparisons between the two. And only you know in your heart when you found the person who's right for you. And I think jobs and careers are the same way, but we don't discuss it in those terms. So no matter who you talk to, whether it's friends or experts, everyone is going to have advice to share with you. But because no one else is inside of you, at least for me, like I can't lie to myself. So I've learned that no matter what, to just follow my gut and trust what's inside of me, because that always ends up being the right answer. And I think most people are looking outward for validation and not paying enough attention to sort of what's nagging at them. True.
Absolutely true. And I also think what people can do is, especially if you have the ability to do it, in today's time, people have more opportunities to create their own opportunities than what they had before. And you don't have to wait for this job to say that you can do this or you can do that, but you can create something that makes you happy. Now, some folks may be like, okay, well, Sylvania, there's no way I can leave my job right now and go and create something I have no idea whether it will survive or not. I tell you this right here. When you follow purpose, it's going to work. It will definitely work. It will work for your good, because then you will be full of all of the things that you need to do. You will be excited. Even when you're exhausted, you will still have the urge to want to work towards that purpose-driven activity, so that it is born, it is fully brought to fruition, right? And so I really hope that folks stop thinking that all of their dreams are dependent on the next promotion or the next corporate America job that is out there that whoever said you needed to get to rise whatever ranks, because it's absolutely not true. And I love the fact that as a woman, you took control of just who you were and what it was that you needed to be happy and demand that. So no, I'm not going to come down the assembly line like the 1,000 other people that came before me, or all of whoever women that you have had to just fall in line. I'm going to disrupt everything that's happening right now. And I'm going to set the record straight and say, this is what I need to do. And this is what I need to do to make me happy. And if I'm happy, your organization will reap the benefits of it.
Absolutely. And I think what we don't realize is, how do you know that you won't be successful if you take that leap of faith? I understand the fear. Okay, I'm getting a consistent paycheck now and benefits and all these things, and I don't want to leave that behind. But why doesn't anyone consider that maybe you'll be even more successful than the job that you're working at now? I know for me, that was the case. And I remember having this aha moment. I was walking last year into, I guess right before COVID, this football season before COVID, into the Miami Dolphins stadium. And I had 2 NFL players that were playing in that game. And I thought, wow, like I just started crying because I remember thinking that I needed to work at a large organization to be able to have success, that success was defined by me working at ESPN or me working at Major League Baseball because I was tied to those big names. And then I took a step back and I thought, oh my goodness, I now have 2 clients on the biggest stage, the most well-known league in all of pro sports. So this is the biggest stage you can get to. And those are just my clients. They're because of me as a human, not because I work for any particular organization. And it was just, I finally did it with just my own, volition and my own capabilities. But sometimes you are the one that you've been waiting for. And I think that's what I've learned in my business. And I remember, everyone here's kind of the stories at the end of the day and you think, okay, well, it was just, rainbows and unicorns. But I had those fears leaving and starting my own business because no one really tells you that's something you could do. And I remember being so afraid of not having or being able to afford health insurance. I mean, so many companies I worked at, people talk about the benefits, and those are really big benefits of, okay, your health insurance is partially or fully covered, whatever it might be. And so that was like what held me back from going full time for the longest time. Then I remember talking to the woman who I go to get my hair cut, and she's an independent contractor. And I said, well, what do you do for health insurance? And she's like, you have to go see this guy at Blue Cross Blue Shield. She, gave me his name and number. Long story short, he was able to set me up with a plan that I now pay less per month in premiums than I ever did working for any other company. So the one thing that held me back and was such a fear ended up being even more cost effective for me once I went out on my own. And I never considered that could be possible.
I mean, that's awesome. So my story is definitely a bit different, but it's somewhat similar because I held myself back thinking that I didn't know enough or had not represented enough athletes to have technically like the skill set or the name, right, to say that I can represent these people. But prior to even getting there, and you talk about all the stuff I've written, I didn't realize until I wrote my first adult book, which is the What Are You Sporting About, that I had already become a published author. I wrote a legal article in law school that was published. And I did so many different things in law school, but I could not find a job. And I refused to wait 2 years, 3 years interviewing. I said, okay, I'm just going to go out on faith and open my own firm. And, my first year, it was frightening. I know nothing. I don't know anything. And I made $13,000 that year. I was so happy for them little $13,000.
That's a big deal to make money in your first year.
I pulled in clients. I made a little bit of money, but but now like I've grown this business, something that I wanted eventually down the pipeline, something I didn't think I had to jump out and do immediately. But I've grown this into a 6-figure business, hopefully a 7-figure, at some point.
Let's not. I said or 8 or 9. Let's not.
Or 8 or 9, right? Yeah. Hey, we can just skip them levels.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep adding those zeros. Well, I remember
adding the zeros.
When I worked for Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V. I was one of his early employees, and he is the person who recommended me for my 2 jobs after I worked at Vayner. So he recommended me for Rise, which was the racial equality nonprofit started by the owner of the Dolphins, and then representing my first NFL client as his chief marketing officer. And I remember the phone call when he said, I think that you would be really good for this particular athlete. And I said, well, I'm at Rise now. I love the cause, and I'm working for, a variety of athletes across all different sports. Every major league was a part of it. Why would I go from that to working for one athlete in one sport. And he said to me, because no matter what you do for any organization, either the founder of the organization or the organization as a whole will get the credit. And he said, you've always been entrepreneurial, and whatever you do for this one player will finally be bringing in the credit and the accolades and the accomplishments that you deserve. Like, you will be credited with what you have been creating and what you deserve to be hearing. And that made a lot of sense to me. And I think that I just always assumed, moving higher up for these organizations, that was sort of the highest level of achievement. But really, when you sort of rip the Band-Aid off and, it's all on you, then you can reach, truly the greatest levels of success, because there's nothing standing, there are no barriers in the way of you achieving everything that you want to achieve. No one can stop you. No one can tell you, no, you can't take this meeting or this award or whatever it might be. And you're kind of set free. And I think if he hadn't given me that piece of advice, that really changed the mentality for me, that, okay, well, when you're on your own, people are going to see the accomplishments and tie them to you instead of back to the organization.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. You said before that sometimes we're just waiting on ourselves, which is true, because I think over time too, we look at how society has, put everything together, and we're two women, okay? We're two women operating in sports in different capacities, but it's hard sometimes to tear down the mental blocks of what you think you can do or what you have to do, and every level you have to reach to get to a certain place. But really, all you're doing is just waiting on you to show up. Are you waiting for you to show up for you? You're waiting for you to show up and be demanding for all the things that you need. And you're waiting to show up and make the space that you can thrive in. I think most times that is the biggest issue, is that we don't have the space, and so that we can develop and that we can grow. And part of that development too is the mental development of women. I mean, when you have a group of people who have been put down and marginalized for so long, in your mind, when you're making certain decisions, you're like, okay, I can't ask for that, or I can't do that, or I have to go this route because this person will say that or do whatever. It does create a limiting mechanism on what your achievements can be. But when you break all of that apart and you follow purpose is the thing that breaks the glass ceiling.
Absolutely. And I think, at least for me, I accidentally found my purpose in my business, because I started out thinking, okay, I've done the marketing for one athlete. I'm going to do endorsement deals and social media for these athletes that I work with moving forward in my own business. And then I started to learn about their worlds and really care about them like family. And I'm like, wait a second. So all these people helped you get to the pros, but no one is helping you maximize your time in the spotlight. No one is helping you try and figure out your purpose. And then the minute that they can't use you anymore for your athletic abilities, you're tossed to the curb, and you don't have no one helps you. You're just left to fend for yourself. And at 30 whatever years old or late 20s, you have to find your next career move with no help. And you're supposed to wake up on a Monday, Tuesday, and just know where to go. Like, how are you supposed to, what do you mean no one's helping you? And I realized the agents do the contracts, but then they kind of disappear. And the teams have social media and marketing departments, but no one was helping these players proactively tell their stories. And I mean, it was everything from one of my clients, I helped him renovate his house and pick out the tile and the paint. And I mean, you just really jump in wherever you're needed. I mean, they need a plumber, whatever it is. And I mean, the week of the Super Bowl, I had one client playing in the game, and I was running to get t-shirts printed for him and helping to set up media interviews. And again, if it weren't for me, there was no one doing this. I found multiple clients' houses. I've, been their realtor. And so it was just, all of a sudden I cared, and it seemed like no one really before me or that I knew of was caring in this same way. And if you cared, you saw there was clearly this white space that was really detrimental to the players unless someone jumped in and helped. And I think the other thing is that when you're growing up, no one tells you you can carve out your own path. I did not know in school I could start my own business. And I think, especially for me, working with these NFL players, I'm like, well, I certainly don't look like the typical agent or representative. So why would they trust me? I'm new in this field. And we always sort of look at the doubts and the fears. But at the same time, they said to me, well, a lot of us were raised by single moms. So in our world, women get the job done. And, we're still young men being sent to these new cities, and you bring a nurturing, caring approach that we need. And we had it at home, and then we're kind of tossed into these new places, and we don't really know anyone. So you caring sort of fills the void. So I never really looked at my role and the positives that could come with being a woman, because everyone, and there are many, always says, what are the downsides of being a woman in sports? And there's so many challenges, we all know, but I just never really considered that there could be advantages until they pointed them out.
And that is so important. I always talk about the team aspect, because I think one of the biggest challenge for athletes, and especially professional athletes, is that they are part of a team, but they don't necessarily know how to create their own team around them in their life and professionally, which is so important, because you are the captain of the ship, but who else is manning all the other things to make it sail, to make it move and make it operable, right? And so just even ways that you stepped in to help people to find homes or to go run around and do certain things, it can be exhausting, which is why you need multiple players on the team, but players that you trust, people who have your best interests at heart. I've heard the same, stories and seen different things where some agents will technically be there for if there's an upside and maybe a huge contract, but if that contract isn't there anymore, they kind of just go away. So let me ask you this. Are you helping your clients when you see that there is a need or a void? Are you helping them to have these questions with key people who they really do need, but also making sure that they're asking the questions that will allude to whether these individuals have their best interests in mind?
Yeah, I think for the most part, for clients to come my way in the first place, I mean, they are the driven, smart, hardworking ones, obviously, to play in the NFL and then go have a second job off the field. I mean, you have to have some special characteristics. So in general, they have good judgment and sort of the EQ or emotional intelligence and good people skills. But I am not there to just tell my clients what they want to hear. I physically can't, I don't know how to be anything other than myself. So there have been times where I've seen sort of detrimental characters in their lives, and I bring it up and I let them know, and then sort of I've done my piece. But I also, I help them understand, they're so used to getting things for free. It's like, okay, but you get what you pay for. And if you want to have, you need a good lawyer on your team, you need a good accountant. I mean, there are certain people, as you referenced, on your team that you must have to function. Especially if you're running any off the field ventures, but on the field or on the court ones as well, you need those people in your lives. And a lot of my clients have their own businesses, and you can't just have people work for free. So I teach them, okay, you need to start your own company. Here's how you do it legally with the paperwork. Here's how you do contracts to pay. I tell them, because a lot of times they start to trust me, and then they want me to, and I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not. So, for me, whether they like it or not, I have to do what I know is right. And that means guiding them to sometimes spend money, even though they don't always want to, but it's all about long-term success, and you need to have those players on your team. And I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I can't do, but what they need. And so I, let them know, and it's no fault of their own. No one's told them before. I mean, most of them don't even have resumes.
And see, that's what we need to stop. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's like the smallest thing that you could do. It's just to have a built out resume. There was something I was about to say to you, but I completely forgot. Oh my gosh. But that's what I was going to say. So the money part, because I've seen this as well. So athletes, especially popular ones, do get used to getting a lot of things for free. But like you said, you get what you pay for. But on the flip side of that too, I feel like the individual who's paying for whatever that thing is has more appreciation for what it is because they've invested in it. You want to see what your money grows into or what the product will be that you've paid for. And so there's also that investment mentality that is attached to the money piece. But the dangers of trying to pull in professionals who you want to have top-notch things done for you at zero cost is that it will not, I mean, everybody has bills to pay. Everybody has businesses that they're running. Everybody has to pay to play.
Yeah, I completely agree. And oftentimes I'll bring up to them, just because they don't realize it, the situation that could unfold if they don't pay a professional or have the right protections in place. So, if we're talking about getting a lawyer, I'm like, do you want to be on TMZ? Do you want to be in the news? Do you want to get sued? I mean, you are an easy target. So I often have to open their eyes to the ramifications, often negative, of what could happen and how devastating it could be if they don't spend a little money now and have the right protections in place. And that's usually helpful in getting them to understand why you want to have a professional. And I think sometimes even still, if they're insistent on doing it their own way, they often come back because they get burned from doing it the wrong way. And they'll say, yeah, you're right. Okay, so who's that lawyer I should hire now? And what is that? Because, XYZ happened. And, even like that they, starting businesses, they bring this person on and I'm like, but we don't even how do you know that it's going to work out? Or it's, it's so fast. I'm telling them, you need to have a contract in place, and then you kind of need to date these people before you decide to make them a business partner. And then they'll come back and say, oh, XYZ did whatever. And yeah, you're right. I don't think they're ready for, so it's often just like putting on the brakes, recalibrating, and inserting the real life business situation that should be implemented at that point in their lives.
And you giving good advice because it's some of the same advice I've given, and it's sad, but it's exactly what happens, especially from a legal standpoint. You go and pull all these people into your business and they're helping you to build out certain things. You're giving them rights over your intellectual property and don't even know it.
Right. And the thing is, they were not protecting themselves. And I think, they see themselves often as normal people. And because I played sports, I'm going to do well in business, or, I'm going to become a financial advisor or realtor because I have this network. There's these sort of cliches that end up overtaking their mindsets just because they hear and see everyone else doing it. And I think oftentimes I have to remind them, these are all the things that could happen if you don't take the right steps. And more than anyone else, you are a target because people believe that you have a lot of money, right or wrong.
Absolutely. So are you seeing that transition or translate well, like from a pro athlete into business? Because so far, I've only seen a very small percentage from the pro sports who transition well into business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly educating them. I often tell them, you can have employees who feel like family, but your employees don't have to actually be family. I mean, that's one consistent issue I've seen not work well over and over again is, hire people that are good for your business, not because you're related to them. I mean, it's almost impossible to mix sort of business and personal relationships. And I think that I appreciate when they listen to my guidance and they're open-minded and let me sort of help them along the way. Some of them get too deep into it, but at the end of the day, I think they're all surprised at sort of how difficult it is. And I think the key is really driving them towards businesses that suit them really well. And sometimes that might be finding internships while they're playing, or, working for other companies before they start their own. Because at the end of the day, you might be a good leader on the field, but you've never worked in marketing. That doesn't mean you're well versed in HR. All of these things that you need to be successful in a complete business, they don't even know that you should have them. So I think, steering them towards their passion and reiterating over and over again. I mean, I had one client who opened a business and I just kind of sent him, I wrote out a checklist of, okay, here are the things that I think you need to know. Like, don't bring up, obviously it's great to support different employees' religions, but don't make jokes or things that might be fine on the field are not okay in the workplace, and they just would have no idea. So I think it's a learning process.
And be hit with an employment discrimination suit.
Oh yeah. I mean, they just have no idea the ramifications of what you can and can't do in an office setting. And I think either they fail, they crash and burn, or they have to continue tweaking. But I think the best thing you can do fundamentally is steer them towards an industry that fits their personality really well, even if it's not super traditional. I mean, I have clients who are broadcasters. I have ones who are in real estate. I have ones who are, they flip houses. I have another who owns his own athletic training facility. And I think ultimately these businesses will be successful because at the foundation, it's what this person is meant to do if they didn't play sports. But if you're just doing something to do it, I don't think it's going to work out long term.
Right. For anybody. Just doing stuff to do it doesn't make sense. And to do stuff just because other people are doing it doesn't make sense. You need to find what is in alignment with you, what you're passionate about. And this is also the reason why I asked the question, what are you sporting about? Because as you are playing, while you are in the game, like literally actively in the role of an athlete, that should just be one driving force that helps you get to the next phase of your life, right? So you always want to be thinking about what it is that you are called to do, that you want to do, that you are truly, truly passionate about. So I do want to ask you before we go, though, my question, what does what are you sporting about mean to you?
For me, what are you sporting about means following your gut. And also for me, it's at the intersection of sports and making the world a better place. For me, I love sports because of the vehicle they can provide to change so many lives, whether it's the people playing themselves or the people following along. So for me, it's sort of about the power of sports, because I think no matter your gender, age, economic status, education level, we all look up to athletes the same way. And so it's an incredible platform to create the greatest change in the world. And ultimately, that's what makes me the happiest, is helping people around me become the best versions of themselves and also making the world a better place.
And I can tell that about you.
Thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it.
I love it. And my last question before we wrap up, because I love the name of your company, Social Victories. So do you have any tips for athletes or aspiring pro athletes or people who are just connected to sports on how they can have or create their own individualized social victory?
I think, obviously, don't be afraid to be authentic. Just as a recent example, I happened to be at the boat parade because I'm a big Bucks fan. So I was at their championship boat parade. And I happened to catch the video of Tom Brady throwing the Lombardi trophy that went viral. So that was a moment I could have never planned for, but I followed my passion and it kind of led me to this magical moment. So, I'm always a big believer in having the courage to be yourself. And that's when great things end up happening. And I would say too, for the athletes that I work with, they have a very busy schedule in the NFL. But even they are working on creating a plan B. I think it's a very powerful lesson for the rest of us. They are giving 100% to whatever they're doing, and they're not wasting any time. So they are going from the football field to an internship to a job to launching their own company. And so that they've created multiple pathways for success. So all their eggs aren't in one basket. And I would say if you are currently an athlete, even if you're the fourth string punter on a team, if you were with the Bucks this past season, you're a Super Bowl champion and you are famous in whatever city you live in because you play for that team. Sports are such a powerful vehicle. So maximize that. Use that position to open doors. Go meet with as many people, I kind of refer to it as like a business combine. Go interview with people, go set up meetings, because use that card while you're playing that would get people excited. You have value to provide, but the minute that you retire, it's over. You're kind of a moot point. And we all saw with COVID this past year, sports were canceled, wiped off the face of the planet. I mean, I will never forget March 11th. Like, well, there went my whole industry. And I mean, you are just as familiar. And I remember thinking it didn't matter how many touchdowns or baskets or whatever your stats were, it was sort of the great equalizer. But there were my clients on TV, the next day, on CNBC, Brandon Copeland is a financial literacy professor. That's unlike a job people think that they can have when they're playing in the NFL. He lives on 15% of his salary. He's a financial literacy guru, and he is a college professor in the off season. And so, sports is silence, but he's over there on CNBC because he's created this plan B. And I think for the rest of us too is, go after your dreams, but also maximize everything in your power. Don't give up that opportunity to go have coffee with someone or to have a conversation or to, don't turn down that interview. Sort of, say yes to everything that falls into your orbit, because then you're creating as many opportunities for yourself, and be relentless. I can tell you so many stories of times pretty much anyone else around me would have given up, and, I'm able to make whatever it is happen. And there's some specific examples I'll have to tell you about another time, but people can't believe it. And it's just because I was determined and I was relentless, and I kept going until there was not a single solution left on the planet. And I think sometimes people throw in the towel too early. And so you cannot, I cannot underscore enough the importance of hard work and determination and just going after it with every fiber of your being.
I feel like you've read my book already, the second one that's coming out. You touched on a lot of points.
That would be impressive if I read it before it came out. I mean, I have some gifts, but I don't think I've accomplished that much at this point.
Man, that's awesome. The picture I had in my mind where while you were talking was the light bulb, because the light bulb wasn't made on the first try. It took, who was it? Thomas Edison. Mm-hmm. It took him 1,000 tries before it actually worked. And so you can't just throw in a towel because things are hard and adversarial and it's too upsetting or it's super emotional. If your heart is in it, stay with it, because I truly do feel that all things will work for your good. If it's coming from the right place, if it's coming for the right reason, it is going to work out. But sometimes you're being tested in the midst of it to see, is this something that you can handle being blessed with if it does come to fruition? Because if you give up too early, then, hey, you're giving up on yourself, and you're giving up on your dreams. You're giving up on all of the things that you have been blessed with that could take something and make it great so that somebody else can be amazing at what they do. So don't throw in the towel too early.
I always picture that image of the guy kind of digging out of a cave, and he just keeps seeing a wall in front of him, but we can see on the outside that he only has a little bit left to go. And what if he gives up? He's almost made it to freedom, but from his perspective, he just, decides I can't do it anymore. Think of how many people probably stop right before they reach their dream. And you have to keep going until there is not an answer, solution, or way left on the planet.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. We had someone from LinkedIn that says, great gems, ladies. Thank you so much. This has been a great interview. And Whitney, I'm so glad that you decided to come on the platform. Y'all, Whitney had me chasing her for a year. Okay. I'm like, lady, are you going to come onto the show or what?
Well, I haven't known how awesome you were, but we all know LinkedIn, and this is something that is worth mentioning, and I think happens more to women, but a lot of people will say to me for my services, and I don't sell water bottles. A lot of my advice is sort of the intangibles. So people say, can I take you to coffee and pick your brain? I'm like, coffee does not pay my rent, and my brain is my job. And so, sometimes LinkedIn gets, so if I had known, I would have, if I had known you previously and now moving forward, you're my 1A girl and, you call and I'm there. But, sometimes until you make that connection, you're just like, oh, okay, more, LinkedIn mess. And they just kind of all run together and you don't end up reading them. But there's obviously something about you that stuck out and that I was like, no, she's a rock star and we got to make this happen. So,
and we got to link up too, especially since you're my home state, because I come back and forth a lot.
Yeah, either you come here or I'll go there or whatever, and hopefully
we'll make it happen.
Pizza can be involved. But I am just here as your woo girl, and you're sort of, I think we all hope to be you when we grow up, because you are setting the bar.
I feel the same about you though, and that's what I love about all of this, because people who I've connected with, and I know the COVID pandemic has been it's been bad in so many different ways, but it's been so good in so many other ways as well, because it's put me in front of people like you who I do feel honored to know and to meet and to network with, because you guys are so inspirational and motivational. And that's the caliber of people that I like around me is, we may think that we have shortcomings, but if you can look at your own shortcomings and say, okay, I'm not missing the mark all the way, but this person makes me want to be better, right? That's the kind of people I like to have around me, because it keeps me reaching for more, dreaming for more, doing more. And I love everything that you've accomplished. You are just an amazing person to me. So
thank you. Well, friends for life. And, I hope I think this is the beginning of something beautiful, and I know we'll be in each other's lives moving forward. And you have, a forever fan here and support system as well. And I think, for me going through school and life, I didn't think I fit in anywhere. I didn't think I was good at anything. And I think we always assume when we have that feeling that there's something wrong with us. We don't realize that sometimes it's because we've been given special gifts that mean we're meant for something greater than the people around us. And I kind of always describe it as most of the world is in black and white. And, for the most part, there's insecurities and, most people, okay with mediocrity. I was never okay with that. Like, I had to always chase after sort of what was in the deepest fiber of my being. And so it's every so often that you meet someone who you feel like is in color and who totally validates you. And that person can sort of erase all the other people who sort of bring you down on a daily basis. And they remind you that you are on the right track. It's just you're kind of at that level. There's not a lot of people up there.
Yes. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, because there's so many times that I feel like that I'm alone, kind of like at the top alone, right? And I know I'm not at the top. I'm not where I want to be, but the more you keep reaching and climbing higher than where you've been, the lesser amount of people are there. And then you also have to look at the type of people who are there too. What is the substance that is a part of these individuals? Do they really breathe life back into you, or do they detract to a point where you are in danger of falling down to a level that you don't want to be in? So,
and I think we have to sometimes remind ourselves it's okay not wanting to do the things that other people around us are doing, because we want a different life than they have. So maybe it feels like in the short term we're holding back, or we're not, the FOMO or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, we have sort of very, big dreams and we want to achieve them. And it's okay not doing what everyone else is doing, because that's going to lead to the life everyone else has. And ultimately we don't want that.
We want something
different and greater. Yes.
Yep. Oh, I can talk to you all day. Whitney, we're not going to keep these people up. So tell us where we can follow you and get involved, and also follow Social Victories.
So nice. Well, I would love to hear what everyone thinks of the book. You Are the First You. It's on Amazon, and there's the paperback, Kindle, and I recorded the audiobook in my own voice, which we'll have to do another podcast episode on that experience. So you have your choice. I was very productive during the pandemic. It's now in all forms. So you can, find it on Amazon. Just type in my name and You Are the First You. And then I'm on the internet everywhere, either as Whitney Holtzman or Social Victories. If you want to follow what my athletes are doing, Instagram, Social Victories is the best way. Obviously also a Facebook page and Twitter, and then same for my personal accounts. And it's just my name on Instagram and then W Holtzman on Twitter. And I'm on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for coming onto the platform and dropping some major gems for everybody. So this has been amazing. You guys make sure that you go and follow Whitney Holtzman. Get her book, You Are the First You. I just bought mine, so it's going to be coming up here soon. Again, let me remind you guys, we have a new book that is launching soon, Athletes Making Moves. Secure your future by protecting your name, image, and likeness. You can find information on prosportlawyer.com. You can also go to Athletes Making Moves. And I totally forgot to mention this. Make sure you go and follow our new group on Facebook and Instagram, Athletes Making Moves, so that you can be in the right rooms to make moves. All right. It's attorney Savannah DeBarros, the protector of athletes. Until next time, I'll check you later. Ciao.
Thanks for joining us this week on What Are You Sporting About podcast. Make sure to visit our website, prosportlawyer.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite platform is, so you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or iHeartRadio. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, What Are You Sporting About? Attorney Savannah DeBarros is available for private consulting at sldebarros.com. And remember, we're here to educate, support, and guide you in your journey to success, because we're all sporting about something.